Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Let's get it going, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. We have Jason JG and your boy Mike Settle over here running the Sports Buffoon clan, holding it down over here at the studios. Tanner's missing today with us. I don't know. He's hanging out somewhere doing something. I don't know. Maybe the Thanksgiving turkey monster got him or whatever. But Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there.
Absolutely. Thanksgiving indeed. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different this year with the COVID situation. You may or may not be out with your family, or you may or may just be listening to the podcast, as you should be every Thursday morning anyways. So we appreciate you guys are listening in and following us on Twitter at Sports Buffoons, as well as on Twitch at Sports Buffoons 15. Today we are rolling without the Twitch, as a matter of fact, taking a week off, kind of taking a little break from the YouTube for a minute as well. But so with Thanksgiving coming up, Jason, I kind of out of a little curiosity before we get into our Chiefs topic of the day, or topics, I should say. What are your top 5 Thanksgiving foods? Anything stand out to you?
Oh, I got a great list for you. In fact, you're not going to be ready for this one because I'm a Thanksgiving food hater. I can't stand Thanksgiving food. It's my least favorite holiday food of all time. But I did come up with a list here, and there is one Thanksgiving food that I love. I've always loved it ever since I was a little kid, and that would be the stuffing. So that's my number one.
Stuffing, huh?
Yes.
Number one is stuffing?
Number one is stuffing because
Wow.
that's the only Thanksgiving food that I eat. I can't stand the rest of it.
So some people would be totally against stuffing. Some people hate stuffing.
Oh, I love it. Unless you're going to throw dinner rolls in there, because I like dinner rolls, but that's not really an official
You could have
Thanksgiving.
you could have dinner rolls anytime, really. I mean, that'd be normal.
All right, so my number 2 favorite Thanksgiving food, we talked about this earlier, Mike, off air, and this is pie. But I've got to go with the local to Kansas City Tippins pie. Have you ever had Tippins pie?
I have had Tippins pie. I've had the French silk Tippins pie. It's super good. Almost as good as Poutang pie, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes. So yeah. So Tippins pie, that's kind of the greatest pie that you can eat around here in Kansas City. I always get the strawberry version. So anyway, my number 2 favorite Thanksgiving food is pie. And then this is where we kind of go off the radar here because my number 3 favorite Thanksgiving food, since I don't like Thanksgiving food, is cheese pizza. So I don't care what kind of pizza it is, I'll eat it. I don't care if you get it from Chuck E. Cheese, which is
That's a very random Thanksgiving food.
It's notoriously awful. I don't care. I love pizza. So, and then number 4, I will go with the filet mignon steak. And then to round it out, my top 5, we got to go back to last week's discussion for that. I'll go with Kansas City Joe's barbecue burnt ends.
So basically, you just hate Thanksgiving food in general. So you're going off the script, off the map, doing steaks and barbecue.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You know what my family does actually for Christmas? We do a lobster feast. We eat lobster and shrimp and all kinds of other seafood. We lay it all on a mat and everything like that and just eat it that way. We don't even eat typical Christmas food. So I guess we're just not that big of fans of I don't know, Christmas food's basically the same thing as Thanksgiving food anyway. So I can see why people would want to mix it up a little bit and just go to what they like. I mean, why eat mashed potatoes if you don't like mashed potatoes? I got a few on my list that actually you did not name that you're probably going to hate, actually, as I mentioned this. My number 5 to start off as I go from my least favorite in this list to my very favorite is actually candied yams. I think those are really good. I don't know if you've ever had those before, but we have those every year at my family feast. And then number 4, I got the green bean casserole.
All right, let me back up here for just a second. I've never actually tried yams in my whole life, but I've seen pictures of it and it looks disgusting. The green bean casserole, I kind of liked it when I was a kid, and then I kind of got grossed out by it when I became an adult. So that's a no and a no for your first 2.
You ready for another no then? I gotta go number 3 is pumpkin pie. So that's my number 3, which probably, I don't know, some people hate it, some people love it. I like it. I don't eat it very often, but with a little bit of whipped cream on there or something like that, then I enjoy it that way. But I'm not a big piece. I'm not a big dessert fan anyway in general. And then at number 2, oh man, if you guys haven't had cheesy scalloped potatoes, That is the way to go right there on your
Ooh.
potatoes. Those are super good.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's one
That is
have you had
really
those
good.
before? Cheesy scallop potatoes?
I did have it. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
those
know,
are-
I don't usually think of that as just like a standard Thanksgiving dinner food, but I do like that one. So
I'm just
I'm impressed by that
I'm just
choice.
going based off what my grandma makes every year, so I don't know any different than what I see out on the platter. And the number one, of course, I mean, everyone's that they say is like turkey or whatever. So I do like turkey. I'm a fan of turkey. It's a great lean meat. Obviously, it makes you tired, but turkey with a little bit of gravy, I enjoy that, and it's got a lot of protein. As we all know, I like protein. I support protein, so I'll go with the turkey, and then take a little nap afterwards while you watch football or during football, depending on who's playing. We might have a game coming up this Thursday evening that we probably want to take a nap during, but we'll get to that later. So I actually just got back from Las Vegas. Got to enjoy a little bit of Chiefs and Raiders out there in front of the fans, and that was a very, very fun trip. Had a lot of fun shooting some guns with my dad and hanging out with buddies. So we just ran around town. There wasn't as much to do as normal in Vegas with everything going on, but it was still a lot of fun to go out, have some drinks, eat some food, lots of food. And but yeah, one of my favorite things about going out to Vegas was getting to go to this bar called the Rock House. I think it's by the Venetian, or in the Venetian, I should say. And I got a reservation over there. A group of 7 of us all sat around wearing our Chiefs t-shirts. I wore my Fresh Prince of Elair t-shirt during the game since I left my Patrick Mahomes jersey at home. Oh my gosh. So with all that being said, with the game itself, what an exciting outcome though with the Chiefs Raiders to see Patrick Mahomes drive down the field with 1 minute and 40 seconds left and put a dagger in the Raiders quickly and efficiently and effectively, and getting Travis Kelce wide open in the end zone to finish off that game and win 35-31. So Jason, what about this game stood out to you? I mean, what did you think of it?
You know, the first thing that stood out to me was the fact that you have Patrick Mahomes on the field for the last minute and a half of the game. And I always like to look at things, even though I'm a Chiefs fan, I like to look at things from the other team's perspective. And so, how in the heck did they let Patrick Mahomes be on the field to run down the field in the last minute and a half? I mean, there's got to be a way for these teams to maybe manage the clock a little bit better and not leave him on the field for a game-winning drive. And, you know, it's like once you see that scenario playing out, then you already know what's going to happen. I mean, 9 times out of 10, maybe 9.5 times out of 10, he's going to march right down the field and the Chiefs are going to score and win the game. And so, I mean, I'm sure most of our audience expected that, but you know, it's not a big surprise anymore when we see Mahomes pull off a stunt like that. Obviously, you got Andy Reid moving to 19-3 after a bye week, and which is another thing we talked about last week that we expected to happen.
By the way, did you see that statistic during the game? Andy Reid has the highest win percentage for road wins in NFL history.
Yes, I did, and that just speaks to his greatness. I mean, I do believe that he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, or maybe not first ballot, but he would have been a Hall of Fame coach,
Regardless.
even if he never won a Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, he's gotten an amazing resume at this point. My only concern after watching that game was probably everybody else's concern out there, which was the Chiefs' defense. But you got to look at who they played. So you're going up against John Gruden, and they put up a lot of points against the Chiefs last time we played them. So we gave up 31 points in this game, and I think we gave up 40 the last time. But, you know, John Gruden is an offensive mastermind, and so I don't put a lot of stock in that. I mean, I know the Chiefs' defense has slipped up a little bit. You know, we're only the 7th best defense in the league right now if you go by points per game. But we're going to pick it up. I mean, when you look at Steve Spagnuolo, historically, this is a guy that always has his defenses peak at the right time, and that's what we want. So, yeah, they're not playing the best defense right now, but I do expect them to pick things up as we get closer to the end of the season and especially the playoffs. But we're still like I said, 7th in the league, 21.4 points per game allowed, and so I'm not concerned about the defense at all after this game. Let's just let the season play out. We're going to correct all of our mistakes. And, in the playoffs, let's just think about this for a second, Mike. Which teams, and we can talk AFC and NFC, which teams do you really think want to end up playing the Chiefs in the playoffs? So,
I mean, nobody actually wants to play the Chiefs.
Right. So I've got a list here of a few teams that may or may not want to play the Chiefs. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers, they've got Baltimore coming up, and then they have to eventually play Buffalo and the Colts. But we talked about this earlier, Mike. The Steelers' season or their schedule has been dog crap up to this point. They've had 2 quality wins. Yeah. And so you're looking at their schedule, they don't want to face the Chiefs. They want no part of the Chiefs. The Buccaneers, that was my Super Bowl pick at the beginning of the season. And so I think they would match up with the Chiefs pretty well in the Super Bowl. We're going to find out about that this week and how that game goes. I'll give you the Seahawks. I think that's a team that if they somehow made it to the Super Bowl, I think they would do okay against the Chiefs. But then you've got teams like Arizona, the Saints, teams that, they're kind of playing good right now, but those teams wouldn't want to play the Chiefs. But when I look at AFC teams, the only team I can think of in the entire AFC that would want a piece of this Chiefs team is the Tennessee Titans. And that's only because they played very well against the Chiefs last year in the playoffs. But outside of that, I mean, none of the AFC teams really want that game.
No, I agree. I mean, and the Titans are a good example because there's a team that last year actually defeated the Chiefs in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, had a good shot against the Chiefs as well. The Chiefs defense prevailed, stopping Derrick Henry in that game. So that ended up being the difference, having like Mike Pennell up front to help stop Derrick Henry on that game. I mean, as far as like just going back real quick to the Raiders game, I was pretty happy with the offense in general because I thought we made plays when they were necessary. And the Chiefs actually had 36 first downs in this game, which is a franchise record. So that tells you they did it efficiently. They were not going downfield too often, but they were getting chunks, and they were converting. Every time on the drives, they were converting and converting. And I don't even know how many punts we had in that game. It might have only been a couple, but it was just a situation where I thought the Chiefs' offense was pretty efficient, and I liked the way Clyde Edwards-Helaire was running, and as well as the efficiency of Mahomes. His accuracy in that Raiders game was incredible. He had some guys drop passes, and there's nothing you can do about that. Demarcus Robinson probably has no business being on this team right now. I know he ended up making a play towards the end of the game, but throughout that entire first 3 quarters, the guy was just awful. And we kept getting him involved when we had a healthy Mecole Hardman. And Hardman was, we had Pringle going out with an injury, but Hardman should have been being used more in that game over Demarcus Robinson. So I didn't understand what that was all about. But in the end, I mean, if we can eliminate Robinson for the future going forward, to where he's not being used as much, with Sammy Watkins coming back here very shortly, then it doesn't matter. It's null. We won the game. So it's not like we're going to sit back and go, oh, Robinson cost us the game, when he could have. But at the end of the day, we had Patrick Mahomes throwing to Travis Kelce, and that's really all that matters. So I was happy with the game in general. With all that said, I mean, we can end up running into the Raiders again down the road. Let's keep that in mind. And that's going to be a tough game. You're talking about teams who do or don't want to play the Chiefs. The Raiders want to play the Chiefs again. I promise you that, because that's a team who's proven to give us a tough fight. If you look at the overall point differential, the Raiders are +4 when you combine the 2 games. So that tells you the Raiders probably think if they get one more shot with the Chiefs, they can win 2 out of 3 in this matchup, just because they're a physical offense, physical team, and for some reason made our defense look like garbage because they could not tackle. Coverage was non-existent. So they let Derek Carr do whatever they wanted, basically. So that was very interesting. Should we talk a little bit about the Buccaneers game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that real quick. I actually have a fun fact for you, Jason. I don't know if you knew this about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers came into the league in the NFL in 1976, and they actually began their franchise in the AFC West. Did you know that?
I had no idea
Yeah.
because I was born in '77. So my earliest memory, I think, was the Seattle Seahawks being in the AFC West.
Yeah, exactly. The Seahawks were in the AFC West, and now you have both those teams in the NFC. So yeah, the Buccaneers played one season in the AFC West in 1976 when they first came. And which actually, when you think about that, it doesn't make sense. Why would Tampa Bay be in the AFC West? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but
That was back in the day when probably Vinny Testaverde was he a rookie back then? Back in the late '70s, probably.
he was at least a rookie. I mean, he probably was playing back then. So I'm surprised he's not still playing now. Actually, we didn't see him on the field still. So, anyways, after that year, they moved over to the NFC, which became the South. And that now includes obviously teams like the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. All those teams kind of came along later on. But with this Buccaneers team, we're looking at Tom Brady, and they're 7-5 all time against the Chiefs. And the last time the Chiefs beat the Buccaneers was with the Joe Montana in 1993. That was the last time the Chiefs beat the Buccaneers. It's been 27 years. So that's been a long time. And obviously, these two teams from different conferences, they don't play each other very often. So we played each other in 2016, 2012, 2008. So we played each other like every 4 years, and the Chiefs have not won since 90. I guess it's been 94 actually. But it's a very interesting dynamic to that. To add to that, something about the Buccaneers has the Chiefs number historically. So, but of course that was what do we call this? Before Mahomes. This was before Patrick Mahomes. This is before PM. As soon as PM got here, it doesn't matter anymore. All those historical facts don't matter any longer. So, with all that said, I mean the Chiefs need to stop Ronald Jones. They need to cover Mike Evans. Get to Tom Brady if they can. Only been sacked 15 times all season long. Anything about this game that you're looking forward to and interested in watching the matchups of?
Well, you've got Kansas City at -3.5. And honestly, guys, I could probably flip a coin on this game. This could go either way because, first of all, you got the Chiefs going up against a pissed off Tom Brady. He's got the media against him, as they always have been. And, you hear a lot of people talking about, well, do you think Tom Brady made the right decision? We could talk about that a little bit later. But, when I look at Tampa Bay, their defense is probably the best defense that the Chiefs have faced up to this point in the year. They've got 32 sacks on the season. And so I'm really hoping that the Chiefs will kind of do what they did against the Raiders and try to just keep that running game going and get these chunk plays. Just be consistent with their running game, their play calling, to try to take pressure off of Mahomes. And I think on the Tampa Bay side, if they can just figure out a way to rough up Mahomes a little bit, then I think that's going to keep the game close. Tom Brady, he's going to see some daylight in this game because the Chiefs' front four is probably not going to bring as much pressure as he saw when he played the Rams last week. I mean, the Rams were just pressuring Tom Brady like crazy. And so I do think the Chiefs are going to win this game. However, if you guys are betting out there, I would not take the Chiefs to cover on this game because I think it could go either way. I am a little bit biased. I will take the Chiefs to win. But, like I said at the beginning of the season, I still believe that this is a preview of the Super Bowl. I don't care if Tampa Bay has 4 losses. It's Tom Brady's first year in this offense. So he's got a few games left to try to gel with this offense.
Yeah, and speaking of Tom Brady as well, for a minute here, he's got 9 interceptions on the season, and he's actually on pace to have his most interceptions since 2009. So obviously it's a new offense, new team, so it's going to be a little bit of adjustment period. And his running backs are not quite as good or effective at receiving as he had in the past with guys like James White. And, I mean, how many other kind of running backs can we name off? Over the years with Kevin Falk, going back to Kevin Falk.
Corey Dillon.
Yeah, sure, Corey Dillon if you want to add him to the mix. But guys like Ronald Jones, he's got 26 catches on the season with 38 targets, but that guy drops almost every pass thrown his way. So even though he's great on the ground, he cannot catch the football in the receiving game. They actually rely more on Leonard Fournette to be the receiving back in that offense. But I'm not so worried about the running backs catching passes and stuff like that. I'm more interested in actually like making sure we can cover guys like Scotty Miller. If Chris Godwin's going to be active, Godwin's got an 80% catch rate right now, which is phenomenal. That's a guy obviously that's getting open and making the best of his opportunities when he's on the field. But of course, he's had an injury problem throughout the season and has barely been on the field in that regard. As far as a route runner, the guy's phenomenal. And then, of course, the big deep threat of Mike Evans, who we saw just like. Did you see that play the other day, Mike Evans, when he caught that touchdown pass where guys were draped all over him, grabbing his legs and stuff like that, and he just lunges into the end zone? I mean, he's like 6'4", 240 pounds. Like it's and he carries it well. So it's pretty impressive what kind of size he has. I would have to assume the Chiefs will be putting Brashad Breeland on him throughout this game just because of the size difference. And Breeland's a big-bodied cornerback who can probably stand against Mike Evans and do a good job physically. As a very physical corner he is. So yeah, with all that said, I still obviously, as a Chiefs fan and as a homer a little bit, picking the Chiefs to win the game, even though I know they're going to be put to the test here against a very good Buccaneers defense. Which, by the way, speaking of that, they are 6th in points forced and 10th in points against for the Buccaneers right now. So keep that in mind. Both effective and well above average on both offense and defense. So this is a team that, even though they're sitting at 7-4, it's a team that's probably quality-wise more 8 or 9 win team throughout the season. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I obviously we're biased here on this show, but Mike, I did want to get your thoughts on what I touched on about, I feel like the media is kind of in a frenzy right now about Tom Brady making the wrong decision to go to the Bucs. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I listen to this stuff, on ESPN and Fox Sports, and a lot of these guys are saying that he made the wrong decision to go to the Bucs, and it's not a good match with Bruce Arians and this and that. I think my opinion is just like, give the guy a chance. Everybody wants answers right here, right now, and my thought is just let's let the season play out. Let's let his receivers gel a little bit better with him. And we'll see where he's at in Week 16 and when they start the playoffs.
Well, really, all I can tell you to that is never let the mainstream media control your mind as far as what you should be thinking about things that are going on in the world. And even in the sports world, I mean, let's ignore anything that goes on politically around the world. But in the sports world, even too, they're all prisoners of the moment. So, okay, Tom Brady lost a game. He has a game here or there where he's 1 or 2 interceptions, and now they're all thinking he made the wrong choice. I think he went to the most talented team that was available for him, and going to the receivers that they have Antonio Brown right now, which he wanted and he got him. Went to the team that had Godwin and Mike Evans, 2 of the top receivers in the NFL, which, by the way, in your fantasy leagues last year were both top 5 receivers, I believe, statistically. So he sees that. He gets Gronkowski to come follow him along as well, come out of retirement. And we got Rob Gronkowski with this team. You got a good running back with Ronald Jones averaging 5 yards a carry right now. Leonard Fournette averaging 4 yards a carry, another good running back. So there's nothing there that, why would anyone out there, besides people trying to stir the pot, be saying that he went to the wrong place? Because this was the ideal place for a 43-year-old Hall of Fame quarterback at the end of his career.
All right, so let's just talk about this for a second before we go into our power rankings a little bit later. So I've got the Chiefs and the Bucs in the Super Bowl. Now, there's a couple other NFC teams out there, namely the Seahawks and Rams, that might have something to say about that. And all I want to throw out there is that the reason why I'm sticking with the Bucs to go to the Super Bowl is because, A, I don't trust Jared Goff, even though I love that Rams defense. And B, I love Russell Wilson, but I do not trust that Seahawks defense. And so that's my reasoning for having the Bucs still, after all this time, making it to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
It could very well happen. I could absolutely see the Chiefs and Buccaneers ending up in the Super Bowl together. The NFC is a lot more wide open, I believe, than the AFC is. I think in the AFC you're looking at roughly 3 to 4 teams who have a shot. Chiefs obviously be one of them. Steelers obviously are one of them. And then we can debate a little bit if you think that a team like the Ravens even has a chance, or Colts or Titans. So the NFC though otherwise is wide open. So with that kind of said, and a little bit up in the air on that, out of your top 5 power rankings in the NFL currently, do you have primarily AFC teams or is it NFC teams? Because it's tough to tell who's really good and who's not in the NFC because there's such a mixed bag of good teams in that conference. So what is your top five, top six teams in the NFL?
Well, to answer your question, first off, I've got in my top eight, because we're gonna go top eight here because I'm one of these indecisive people
Yeah,
that
indecisive.
I can't narrow it down to five teams. So I do have five NFC teams, and then I've got a total of three AFC teams in my power rankings. We're gonna start out at number eight and work our way back. I've got the Green Bay Packers, and I'm not a big fan of their defense, and really I'm not a huge fan of their offense outside of Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams. But I think those three guys carry enough star power to get the Packers to that number eight spot. Number seven, I've got the Saints. Really like their defense. But the reason I've got them so low, a lot of people have the Saints a lot higher on this list. You know, what's going to happen? They're saying Drew Brees might come back in week 15. Well, that's probably going to cause a little bit of confusion. I don't know if they're going to throw him in there or if they're not. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there. So I've got the Saints at number seven. Number six. So this gets a little bit interesting. I've got the Las Vegas Raiders. And on their schedule, they have beaten the Saints. They are 1-1 against the Chiefs. And then they've lost to Tampa Bay. So I really like what John Gruden is doing with that offense, and I just think that they're going to be there in the end. I definitely think they're going to be a playoff team. Number five, I've got the Steelers, and a lot of guys have these Steelers a lot higher on the list. And we touched on this earlier, Mike. They've beaten Tennessee and Baltimore, but they barely beat Baltimore. And when you look at the rest of the teams that they have beaten, it gets ugly. I'm not even going to talk about the teams that they've played because dare I say they've played a couple of college teams.
That's
on that
essentially
schedule.
what it's been at this point for them for that schedule.
But you guys are going to find out a lot about the Steelers upcoming because obviously they've got Baltimore this week. They got to take care of business. And then a little bit later, they've got Buffalo and Indianapolis. And so I'm going to lay it out for you right now. I've listened to all these guys in the media say, oh, I think they can go undefeated. And they say it with a straight face. And I'm just dumbfounded by that because no, they absolutely cannot go undefeated. And it's just not going to happen. They're going to lose at least one, probably two more games in the season. So I've got the Steelers at number five. Number four, this was actually, they were higher on my list earlier in the season. That's the Seattle Seahawks. And they've dropped a little bit. I still have them at number four. I'm not crazy about their defense right now, but they did beat Arizona, so they're 1-1 against the Cardinals. I do believe that they've been battle tested. So that's a pretty tough division that they're playing in. They've lost to Buffalo and the Rams. Those are the two really good teams that they've lost to. So the Seattle Seahawks are number four. Number three, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers have beaten the Packers and the Raiders, and they've lost to New Orleans twice. So I look at those games and I'm kind of like, well, that's kind of a mixed bag there because, Green Bay is really good. We know the Raiders are good because they've beaten the Chiefs. And so I think that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier when we talked about the Bucs just needing a little bit more time to gel. Tom Brady getting to know those receivers just a little bit better. And I think I could probably move the Bucs up my list a little bit later in the season. The Bucs are at number three. Number two, I've got the Rams. And I know what you guys are thinking out there. Oh my gosh, you just put Jared Goff ahead of Tom Brady. No, I didn't. I put that defense ahead of the Buccaneers defense. I like that defense a little bit better right now on the Rams. I like that pass rush. They are actually number two in the league right now defensively, only giving up 19.2 points per game. They have beaten the Seahawks. Obviously, they beat the Bucs. They lost a tough game to the Buffalo Bills, but I still have them at number 2. And then number 1, not a whole lot to talk about here. We got the Chiefs. They have beat the Ravens. They are 1-1 against the Raiders. And, they've beaten Buffalo, and they actually beat Carolina, which a lot of people wouldn't see that as a quality win, but remember they did have Christian McCaffrey in that game, so I call that a quality win. So Chiefs are number 1 in my power rankings, and we'll send it over to you, Mike. What do you have over there?
Yeah, that's an interesting list you got going on there. There's a couple of different teams, and I don't remember. Did you have the Colts on your list at all?
Colts are not in my top 8.
Not at all in your top 8. That's very interesting to me, because I'm a big fan of their defense. But to start it off for me, at least for my top 5, I do have the Seattle Seahawks number 5, and all the credit for that goes to Russell Wilson and the fact that whenever the game's on the line, he's a guy I trust to make plays, and he's someone that I think that can make up for having such a bad defense. I think they've given up 287 points allowed right now for that defense, and so they're winning games and they're doing great, and they have tough competition as well. They're playing against the Rams, like you said, playing against the Arizona Cardinals. It's a good team, and I think it's one of those teams that if the Chiefs had to face the Seahawks, I'd definitely be worried in the Super Bowl if we had to put it that way. That's a good team with a good quarterback, so I think that's a team that can win against anybody, anytime. After that, I do have the Indianapolis Colts number 4. This was very debatable in my head, actually, as I wrote this down, because you could have even gone with the Titans, also in their division at 7-3 as well. The reason I gave the Colts the edge is due to that defense with 208 points allowed right now, which is very, very good, and the fact that Phillip Rivers is getting into a rhythm with his receivers lately and putting up big numbers, great numbers, doing a good job, playing efficiently more than he was in the beginning of the year. And I know I was a big guy on Phillip Rivers in the beginning of the season, so to see him coming out and making plays and not turning the ball over quite as much as you had been in the beginning of the year is big news, in my opinion. Actually, Phillip Rivers, let's see, interception-wise, he's got 8 on the season, only 14 touchdowns, but I think that's also because they partially lack a little bit of a top-end receiver besides T.Y. Hilton. They kind of got a mixed bag over there. After that, I got the Saints, a team that you're not as high on, sitting at 8-2, a team who just won with Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, by the way, completed 18 of 23 passes in this last game here, this past Sunday. And if they can win as they won last year with Teddy Bridgewater replacing Drew Brees during injury, won every game, and that tells me that this is just a good team all around. If you can lose Drew Brees and you haven't lost a game still between last year and this year combined, that's impressive. You can lose your starting quarterback, your Hall of Fame quarterback, who's tied with Tom Brady right now for the all-time most touchdown passes, and still keep winning games. That's great news, and I think the Saints are a good team that if the Chiefs came down to that, that'd be a game to be worried about too. Number 2, I know you're not as big high on these guys, but they're 10-0. It's the Steelers. And right now they're 10-0, and it's hard for me to put them too low because of just that record and that fact itself. And their point differential is outstanding. So they're a team that, even though they've been playing a lot of, let's be honest, as we said, college teams, point differential sitting at 298 points forced, 174 points allowed. So put that in perspective, that's a big differential, in fact, by far the biggest in the entire NFL. So they got a great defense to go with a very, very good offense as well, and Roethlisberger is playing very well. Now, obviously, they need to prove it more against good teams. This week is a great example of when they can win again against the Ravens, who want revenge. So after that, obviously, I got the Chiefs sitting at number 1. I think that is the best team. One loss in the past 1 year now. I mean, the last time that they lost, besides that previous Raiders game, was with the Titans last season in a regular season game when Derrick Henry ran all over the Chiefs' defense. So with that said, I think the Chiefs are still the best team, been the most battle-tested so far, including the schedule, taking those things into account. So those are my top 5s. With that said, as far as the top 5s, let's move on to fantasy real quick. And do you have anything about fantasy football right now you want to hit on? We have 2 more weeks until the fantasy playoffs begin. We have win this week here, another week, and then boom, week 14 is on the horizon for your fantasy leagues, people. So I hope your team is set in stone, ready to roll. But there's probably a couple guys out there you can keep in mind to pick up for down the stretch of your year.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some guys here. I mean, for the most part, at this point in the season, we're looking at this waiver wire, and it's what do we usually say? Hot garbage. But, there are some guys that are, less than 60% owned in the league. And so here's a guy I cut early in the season because I got tired of his ass, and that was James White, running back for the Patriots. I drafted the guy, and then I cut him after like week 7 or week 8 because he didn't do anything. And he's only 55% owned right now. Last game he had 5 rushes for 19 yards, but he had 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 64 yards. So he seems to have regained that third down role on the Patriots. And let's be honest, the Patriots are hot garbage this year, so they're going to be doing a lot of passing of the ball. So if James White is available, go out and get him if you need a running back. He's 55% owned, especially if you're in a PPR league. Another guy goes by the name of Taysom Hill. If you guys need a quarterback out there, he threw for 233 yards.
But those touchdowns on the ground.
Yes, sir. 10 rushes for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is only 54% owned in Yahoo right now. Now, granted, he did play against the Atlanta Falcons in that game. So, he's going to be tested later on down the road. But if you guys need maybe like a quarterback on your team, you might want to roll with Taysom Hill.
Those rushing touchdowns will come with Taysom Hill.
Absolutely. And then number 3, this guy's only 22% owned in Yahoo. If you need a tight end out there, tight end is a very weak position. And we've talked about that on this show as far as fantasy is concerned. Dalton Schultz for the Dallas Cowboys had 6 targets, 4 receptions, 25 yards, and a touchdown. And he's got a pretty favorable schedule coming up. He's got Washington, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Philly. And that is a favorable schedule if you're talking about that tight end position. So those are my 3 pickups. If they're by chance available in your league, go out and get them. Other than that, like we said, waiver wire, hot garbage.
Yeah, for me in general, all I can really tell you guys out there is that start getting everything situated for weeks 15 and 16. So remember, you want to go all in. This is the time of year where you want to be pushing in your chips, to be looking for matchups especially. So like, for instance, the New York Giants defense this week would be a great addition for your team. There's playing against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals. They actually went up 48% owned just this week based on this matchup alone. So they went from being rostered in 12% of leagues to now going against the Bengals being rostered in now 60% of leagues. So look at the matchups, but here's the thing. Don't look week to week. I want you to look ahead. I want you to be looking at weeks 15, 16, get yourself in position to pick up the best defense for those weeks. Look at the schedules, pick them up, do whatever you got to do to make it happen somehow. Find a way to find the best matchups for that going forward. And in general, you just want to hope to stay healthy. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have stars on your team right now that have carried you to this point in the season where you're sitting with 7 wins or 8 wins or even 6 wins, like I currently have, I'm 6-5, then you want to make sure you have guys on your team that are healthy. So always have good backup plans and play the matchups. This is the time of year where that's really all it comes down to, because as we just went over, there's not much left on the waiver wire. You're not going to have very many options in that regard. So with that, speaking of fantasy, I kind of had a dream the other day about this. I remember I used to collect a lot of football cards when I was a young kid, and I was thinking about this the other day. So I had this kid in school that came up to me one time trying to sell me a Dorsey Levens, halfback for the Packers football card, and I don't know, for some reason, he showed it off. He was a good salesman about it. I mean, we were 9 years old, but he's just like, oh, look at my Dorsey Levens football card, and I thought it was really cool. Dorsey Levens played in the Super Bowl in 1997, so anyways, I thought that was super cool, and he ended up keeping the card. I didn't want to buy it from him. I didn't have any money. I was 9 years old. So with that story being said, from then on, I got into also buying or, getting my parents to buy me cards for Christmas. So I wanted to ask for football cards, NFL trading cards, this and that kind of thing. So from then on, I started asking for cards. And next thing you know, I'm just collecting all these Topps football cards. I got holographic cards. I got jersey cards. I got all kinds of Chiefs cards. I got, Donnell Bennett and Greg Hill and stuff like this to my collection. So I started thinking about this before we started talking, Jason, was like, I don't know. What is there a certain like card you had? Because I know you are a big card collector, and it's something you've done for a long time. Something, any card that you've ever had stand out to you?
Well, I started collecting cards when I was about 8 years old. But before we start this discussion, I got to go back to a name that you just brought up, Dorsey Levens, because I was going through my collection the other day. Actually, this was a while back, and I found a Dorsey Levens action figure. And I
Oh,
thought to
action
myself,
figure.
an action figure.
Okay.
I had it.
Nice.
And I saw that. I was like, wow, I think he was a really good player. And then I looked up the value of it. It wasn't worth a damn.
Yeah.
So I ended up giving it away for Toys for Tots for Christmas last year.
Oh, that's very nice of you, actually.
But
That's
anyway, Dorsey Levens, I mean, that's a name that I haven't heard in a long time. But I've got a list. You guys know out there that I love to come up with these lists of my rankings and what have you. So I've got my top 5 sports cards that I acquired when I was a kid. And so we'll start with number 5. And that was the first pack of cards that I ever opened in my whole life. I have no idea where I was, but my dad took me and I bought a pack of football cards, and I pulled a 1985 Topps Dan Marino. And that was not a rookie card, that was a second-year card. And that's a really cool looking card, and that's number 5. Number 4, that was the first basketball card or basketball set that I started collecting, and I pulled a 1989 Fleer Michael Jordan, and that was my first Michael Jordan card ever. I wish that I was collecting basketball cards in '86 when they came out with his rookie card, which is worth a lot of money. And that was number 4. My number 3 favorite card that I ever pulled as a kid was the 1987 Topps Jerry Rice. That was also his second-year card. I love me some Jerry Rice. Number 2, a lot of you guys out there would have this as your number 1, because I've talked to people and they say that this was by far their number 1 favorite. That's the 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. I still have it to this day. And I had him at number 2 only because my number 1 favorite card that I ever acquired when I was a kid was the 1987 Topps Future Stars rookie card of Bo Jackson, who still to this day, I believe, was the greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah, I like that Bo Jackson. I actually have a Bo Jackson autograph around here somewhere, so it's on a baseball, but I do have one of those around here. And I like that you mentioned Ken Griffey Jr. That's my favorite baseball player of all time. And growing up being left-handed, Griffey was kind of somebody you just looked up to. Like, I wanted to stand like him. I wanted to play like him. Now, of course, I don't have the athletic ability or the natural ability of a guy like Ken Griffey Jr., but he was a lot of fun to watch. He got me into baseball, as a matter of fact.
Do you know why everybody wanted to play like him? Because he was one of the only superstars from that era that did not do steroids.
Yeah, correct. He had 56 home runs in one season, and did not do steroids. Just like the natural. And when we say the natural, we mean it in 2 different ways. Like, he was just naturally gifted with the most gorgeous swing of all time, as well as the natural in a way where grew up in the steroid era, and yet he still cranked out like 50 home runs consistently. So if he could just have stayed healthy throughout his career a little bit more and been on the field more, then who knows.
Right, but the other guys did stay healthy because they did steroids.
Well.
So that's why he didn't stay healthy.
That might be part of it. I don't know. But Griffey's a guy that I've always admired, and I do miss watching him play. He got me into baseball for sure when I was younger. I don't know. I got a couple of cards for some reason. These are very random. You got way better cards than I do. I got a Miami Hurricanes jersey Frank Gore card laying around here somewhere, which I always thought was cool. Who would have ever thought he would end up being the 3rd all-time rusher in NFL history as of right now? And he could eventually, if he keeps playing, move into 2nd all-time, and in past, only one he'd have left to be would be Emmitt Smith at that point. So, anyways, Frank Gore has been around forever. He's the ageless wonder on that one. I actually had this thing. I had like 12 different Clinton Portis rookie cards for some reason from Topps, and I got sick of seeing them because I had so many of them. But yet he had such a good rookie year and then second year that I liked that Clinton Portis card that I had. And then of course I had a holographic Priest Holmes card as well, and I had a rookie Priest Holmes card. And so I thought that was cool. But I don't know. I've had so many cards in my life that I don't really like value one over the other. Obviously, my favorite one right now is easily my Patrick Mahomes cards, both of them right now, which one of them I bought from you for like $5,
You got a pretty good deal on that.
and now it's worth over $100, and it's not even autographed.
It's worth about $150.
Right now,
I
exactly.
sold it to you. I sold it to you for exactly $4.
$4.
You're welcome.
I like that one, and I like my other Mahomes one as well. That's currently sitting in a plastic case off to the side. But anyways, I figured we'd talk about that for just a minute before we get into our pick'ems for the week. So, anyways, I guess we have Thursday. We don't have a Thursday night game. We have a Thursday afternoon game this week in the NFL schedule because we have the Ravens and Steelers moved over to Sunday. So our Thanksgiving here today and tonight is going to be a little bit lonely with the football perspective, unless you just really want to watch the Redskins and Cowboys. But let's kick it off real quick and do some picks. All right, I got the Houston Texans at the Detroit Lions. You always go with the Lions, Jason. I don't know why you do this all the time to yourself, but I'm going to go with the Texans on this one easily.
Okay, so you say I always go with the Lions.
It seems that way.
Houston is -2.5, and Kenny Galladay, we know, based on recent history, he's not going to play. So you have no weapons for Matthew Stafford. So guess what? I am not going with the Lions. I have Houston, and they are going to cover that 2.5 points.
All right, Houston it is. All right, after that, we got a quick one here. Redskins, Cowboys. I'm going to go with the Redskins here.
Yeah, you got Washington. I do like Dallas playing at home here, but this is going to be my flip a coin game. Anytime we get into these NFC East games, I mean, let's be honest, nobody knows who's going to win because that whole division is hot garbage. So I am going to flip a coin, Mike, on this game, even though I like Dallas at home. What do? The Washington quarter for Washington football team is heads.
Flip it. Let's see what happens
And
here.
Dallas is going to be tails. It is tails. So I went with my first instinct here. I went with the Dallas Cowboys at home. But please don't bet on this game, guys. Not worth your money.
All right, moving on to Sunday, so we can get back to some real games here. We got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Atlanta Falcons, and this should actually be a really good game. I think both these teams are interesting in the way that they perform week in, week out because they're kind of hit or miss, and especially the Falcons, hot and cold. The Falcons come out firing. I mean, Falcons could win this game for sure, but I think the better team for sure is the Raiders. I'm going Raiders here.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a bounce-back game for the Raiders, even though I do think they played well against the Chiefs. They got to get back on that winning streak, so I'm going with the Raiders.
All right, then we have a really good matchup for this week. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. Despite the Chargers' record, I think they have a good shot to give them a little upset here. Only difference is that travel going from LA out to Buffalo, New York, or I guess they play technically in a different city. But anyways, besides all that, I'm still going to go with the Buffalo Bills here because they're the better team.
Yeah, I got the Bills. They're actually going to cover that 5.5 points. I just think the Chargers' defense is weak at this point, so I'll go with the Bills.
All right, then we have a quick one here. I told you guys to pick up the Giants defense if you have not already, and they're still available. Grab them, in my opinion. They will beat the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, sir. I agree with you on that. I love me some New York Giants defense this week. They are -5, and the most important thing is none of us out here that are listening to this program believe in a guy by the name of Ryan Finley. Do you guys believe in him? I
He's
don't.
pretty awful.
I'm going with the Giants.
All right, then we have one of the games of the week, we should say. This is the AFC South matchup of two 7-3 teams and a team who just beat the Baltimore Ravens in overtime. We got the Tennessee Titans going to the Indianapolis Colts. This is going to be a great, great game. It's really tough to pick this one. This one to me is almost a coin flip, but I am going to go with the Colts.
Oh, you're going with the Colts.
Yeah,
That's
I'm going with
very
the Colts.
interesting. Well, I tell you what, this is actually my easy money bet of the week. Believe it or not, Indy is favored by 3.5. I'm going with the revenge game factor in this game. I think Derrick Henry and the Titans are pissed off about losing to him last time. So I've got Tennessee all the way. You can take it to the bank and bet on it if you want.
Yeah, I'm not doing any more bets. I bet on the Chiefs to cover this past weekend, and we did not do that. The line was 7.5, so no more bets for me. I will save that for the crowd
Didn't I
out there.
tell you not to bet on that game?
I know, but I had to. I had to do a. I had to do a bet though.
You should listen to this program a little bit more.
I should probably do that. I should have done that on the way out. Then I would have known not to do that. All right. Then we have after that the Carolina Panthers at the Minnesota Vikings, and this would be a good game as well. But I do like the Vikings slightly better. So I'm going Minnesota and Adam Thielen and all the good things I got going over there with Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, you got Kirk Cousins over there. He's only thrown one interception in the last 4 games. You know why? Because he's got Dalvin Cook on his team. And what do we say about Dalvin Cook, Mike?
He's a superstar.
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 I'm going with the Vikings.
All right, then we have the Arizona Cardinals at the New England Patriots. This one's very easy for me. Obviously, the Cardinals are a team that I actually like watching a lot. I'm a big fan of Kyler Murray. The Patriots are just not good in general. They are what I thought they were going into the year. I know when we first talked about this, somehow Tanner talked me into believing in the Patriots. Why did I ever listen to Tanner about anything? I don't know. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals easily here.
Yeah, I'm a big believer right now that Kyler Murray is fully healthy. He says he's okay, and I believe him. So I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals.
All right, then we have Dolphins and Jets. Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, so we got Dolphins at -7 in this game. And Tua has been named the starter, even though he got benched in the last game. And shall we say this is a get-right game? I think we will. Anytime you play the Jets, I don't care who you are. You could be a college team. This is a get-right game. And Miami is -7. They are going to win and cover.
All right, I think Cleveland is going to run all over Jacksonville. That is going to be a game to pay attention to because between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, this is going to get ugly on the ground. So Browns all the way there.
This is going to get very ugly, and Cleveland is only -6.5, believe it or not. So you guys need to bet this game. I probably should have had this as my easy money game, but I didn't. But you can take it for what it's worth. I am telling you that they will cover the 6.5, and Nick Chubb will continue to dominate. I'm going with the Browns.
All right, here we go. One of our big games. We need the Ravens to come through as Chiefs fans here. Ravens and Steelers. The Ravens, for me, are a very good team still. I don't care that we beat them handily back in week 3, I believe it was. And what the record currently sits at, as of right now, they're out of the playoffs, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I really like the Ravens in this situation. I think the Ravens actually do upset the Steelers. They come out grounded, get Gus Edwards over there. Maybe could get him more involved. So I just think that in general, I think the Ravens are going to have a game plan to come out and defeat the Steelers. But that's just kind of me doing a little bit of wishful thinking. But also, I think the Ravens are good enough to do it too.
Yeah, I had this as a coin flip until they moved it from the Thursday game to a Sunday afternoon game. I think that gives the advantage over to Baltimore. Pittsburgh is -3, but the Ravens have lost 3 of their last 4 games, and it's time to get right if you're the Ravens. I mean, there's no better time than right now. So the Ravens have to get it done, and they will get it done. I'm going with the Ravens.
Yeah, that game starts at 12:15 Central Time, by the way, so keep that in mind. Then we have the Saints and Broncos starting at 3:05. This should be an interesting game. We have a little more Taysom Hill on the way. Taysom Hill versus Drew Lock. This is going to be an interesting game, but I think the Saints win.
I do not think it's going to be an interesting game.
No?
New Orleans is -5.5,
Mm-hmm.
and I expect Drew Lock to crap his pants in this game. Let me tell you why. The Saints have an elite rushing defense. And so Locke is going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to make some mistakes. We all know that he's going to make mistakes. So I've got New Orleans to win and to cover the 5.5.
All right, I like it. Well, all right, then we have a few more games to wrap up here. 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. Rams all the way. I mean, that game, I'm not really going to talk about it. The Rams are going to win the game.
Yeah, and it's actually a revenge game. So, yeah, Jared Goff, he's going to be efficient in this game. I don't know which way it's going to go as far as the spread. The Rams are -6.5, but who cares? The Rams are going to win.
Yep, and then we have, I think, the game of the week. we have the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. Now, we already kind of discussed earlier, we both think the Chiefs are going to end up winning this game. But keep in mind, Ronald Jones sitting there with 754 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. Not to mention he had a 98-yard rushing touchdown this season as well. I think he's going to be someone to watch and someone that the Chiefs need to keep an eye on there coming from the backfield. And it's not going to be that easy. They got a lot of talent on that team in Tampa Bay. So it's going to come down to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes doing his deal. And, Tyreek Hill was used a lot this past week against the Raiders. And Tyreek, Kelsey, keep continuing with Clyde and, Le'Veon Bell getting in the mix, that kind of deal. But can the Chiefs defense actually wake up this week? Because if not, if the Chiefs defense comes out like they did against the Raiders, Buccaneers are going to win this game. The Chiefs defense has to step up here and make an impact. But as we know, Steve Spagnuolo against Tom Brady, oh, come on. We know who wins that matchup every time, right? Spagnuolo's record against Brady is phenomenal. I think he's only lost a couple different times, not to mention the Super Bowls in the past with the Giants. So he was involved in those. So, anyways, what do you got for that game?
Yeah, well, so who was your pick?
My pick's the
Like
Chiefs.
I need to ask.
My pick's the Chiefs, right. The pick's the Chiefs.
All right. So I do have the Chiefs. Now, you guys may not want to bet on this game. Chiefs are -3.5. I think it could be closer than that. I do believe that the Chiefs defense is going to step up in this game. We all know this is my Super Bowl preview from before the season even started. Tampa Bay's defense is not quite as good as they were a little bit earlier in the year. It's going to be a close game, but I've got the Chiefs prevailing here, so give me the Chiefs, but don't take the points.
I will be at Twin Peaks, by the way, for those of you still listening. So if you'd like to come join, then hit us up on Twitter, give me a DM, and I would love to meet up with a fan over there because it'll be a good time to hang out with some friends and Chiefs fans and watch a great game. So after that, we have Sunday Night Football, Chicago Bears at Green Bay Packers. This will be a good game, I think. But as you guys all know, I called the Bears frauds, and they are who I thought they were. So the Green Bay Packers win this game handily with Aaron Rodgers shoving the ball up their ass.
Well, they were not who I thought they were because Nick Foles got injured. I know that's a lame excuse. But anyway, we got Green Bay at -8.5. This is a bounce-back game for the Packers, but there's no way that they're going to cover the 8.5 points. This is a tough divisional matchup. Packers are going to win the game. Don't worry about that, but don't bet on this game as far as on the Chicago side. You got the Packers to win the game, but Chicago's going to keep it close, I think.
All right, Monday Night Football, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this will be interesting. And the Seahawks defense, come on, play well for once here. We're playing against the Eagles, and I think the Seahawks should get a victory here for sure. But I think the Philadelphia could still put up, 24 points on this team. It's because the Seahawks have not proven themselves. At the end of the day, though, who's better? What quarterback is better? Russell Wilson, all day, Seahawks.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great example of one of those games you do not want to bet on because, Seattle, -5, maybe not. As far as the game is concerned, Russell Wilson looked good against the Cardinals, and I expect another big game for him. So I picked the Seahawks to win.
Very, very good. All right, well, thank you guys so much for listening. Jason, you have anything to wrap it up here with us? Anything you need to say for Thanksgiving or the weeks coming forward here as we wrap up November?
No, just if you guys think of any other Thanksgiving foods, tell us your favorites. Anything that I didn't bring up. Maybe I didn't bring up your favorite pizza or steak that you guys
Do you like cranberry sauce?
Oh, gosh.
That's one of the
Out of a
Thanksgiving.
can?
That's what they do out of a can. I think cranberry
Out
sauce.
of a can. No, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I don't do cranberry sauce either on that one. I'm not a big fan of mashed potatoes either, so that just seems like a really boring food to me,
Only
even with
if it-
gravy.
The mashed potatoes are fine if they come from Kentucky Fried Chicken. I can deal with it.
KFC mashed potato. Okay, so guys, go over to KFC for Thanksgiving and grab your mashed potatoes over there, and then that way it's okay. Idaho has those little baggy packets. You think it's powder basically. You add a little water to it, and microwave it, and then boom, mashed potatoes. They come out of it. I used to
Yeah.
eat that every once in a while.
Well, I've been to Idaho, and they did not show me that, so they must not be that good.
I did that, back in the day when they were because they're like $1 a packet or something like that. So
That's a good
super,
price.
super
actually.
cheap mashed potatoes. It's not so bad, but got to go with those cheesy scalloped potatoes. That's the way you do it.
if all else fails, just go to Smash Burger or Five Guys or whatever your favorite burger joint is out there. They're probably going to be closed, but just make your own.
Just
burger.
make your own burger, yeah.
Make your own burger. Who cares?
Who cares about eating anything Thanksgiving related? Just go eat what you want. That's all it should come down to, right? Eat what you want. All right, you guys. Well, with that all being said, thank you all so much for joining in with us. We are super excited for the Chiefs-Buccaneers game. And I think and I hope that Tanner will be back next week. He's been missing. He's going to be doing a solo here, so he will be out there alive and well, just not with us at the moment. And maybe he's quarantining or something. That's a secret. We can't talk about that right now. All right, you guys. So with all that said, thank you so much for joining in the show, and we will see you all on the next one.
Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, and we are out.